Welcome to episode 27 of Rogue Mode 0 to 40 in Flight of Nova. We are at level 38, and what that means is that we have maybe 2, maybe 3 episodes left. I do not plan to sit here until I reach level 40 in one episode. It would have to be pretty lucky. And a mission like this, well, 12,000 miles away, is certainly not the way to go. One hour, but it's here's a 5-bar difficulty, but it expires in 4 minutes, and I have to go way too far for that. Here's a 4-bar drifting cargo, and then all I gotta do is go to Cohagen, and then from there I can look for a space station. Although Cohagen is on the other side of the planet, using time skip, that would go by really quickly. Alright, we have a significant latitudinal offset. What that means is that we need to go south a lot in order to. So we're actually going to leave a little bit early, is my plan right now. I don't know how early to go. I think maybe 2 minutes. I was thinking maybe 1 minute. That's pretty far. So we'll go 2 minutes early. And then we will go east and south. We gotta go east and south. And we'll go slightly under 30 kilometers. Ever so slightly under 30 degrees, I mean. It shows me having an AOE of actually over 30 right there. But that's my ship's pointed. I don't know if that's my trajectory. My indicator is below the plus 30. So I don't know. I don't know which one to believe. There's Cohagen CE 188. It's a low altitude station. Because we lifted off at a fairly shallow angle, we're gonna let this drift a little bit. Sullen is falling away from us. However, Dalby is ahead of us. But Dalby's kind of way ahead of us. Dalby's going to be... It's still going to be like 3,000 kilometers away. So I'm not saying... Oh my goodness. Alright, I got to burn. I got to back burn. There's no way. We're going to be flinging way out into space. We gotta do something. Our apoapsis is like 420. We can't live like that. So we'll just back burn down to the appropriate 188. We're almost there. Actually, this is going to be fun, because we left early. So now we need to see that our latitude is still 2.3. And so we kind of want to pop up over that, having left early, pop up over that altitude, and just kind of float to the south for a little while. And so for a couple minutes, we're going to get up to that 202 kilometers altitude, and then we'll start to fall back down. And we are still going south. We're at 1.8. And we just need to keep an eye on that latitude, and we need to keep an eye on the distance to Cohagen Station. Now at the apoapsis, we're going to start to fall back right now. So we're about 20 kilometers higher than we need to be, so we can fall for a short while before we need to worry too much about it. And we're 1.1 degrees latitude. I have no idea how many kilometers that is. .9. It does look like, though, we're going to be lining up just fine to just worry about rendezvous burn, and then we'll course correct on that rendezvous burn, and we should be okay. So the rendezvous burn, we're going to want to burn up to cancel our negative FPA kind of a little bit. And then we're going to want to burn. We're dropping a lot. Our latitude is no good. I'm going to vert burn and loiter. We're going to vert burn and loiter. So we'll vert burn our FPA. And so you see our FPA is ticking down. We're going to put it to a little bit positive. We'll go 5 is okay for now. We're going to do higher. Alright, and our lat is now negative. So that's a problem, but we are going to go ahead and go for a rendezvous burn. And we're going to have to burn north. We've lost track of our latitude. So this is a very wobbly intercept that we're attempting to achieve. Really moving south hard. So now at this point, we're going to be going for a velocity match, and then we're going to just approach once we've achieved that velocity match. at this point, I kind of want to be burning northeast, I think. Oh no, southeast. Alright, we're going way too fast. We want to be burning southwest. Alright, here's our approach now. So that was a lot of fuel we burned, just driving all over the place. But that's okay. We're gonna make it. Sometimes it's nice to just drive all over the place and kind of wobble around and feel it out. I mean, a lot of that just has to do with trying to account for 4.2 latitude offset just by kind of guessing. And we might hit it. So we should have time for a quick stop at the dock port first. Cohagen has a free dock port. And I always like to practice docking to the dock port before we go to the station proper, to the destination proper, because I like to get practice at the docking port. And we are rapidly approaching the station. I'm not looking where I'm going. So where is our dock port? I believe it's over there by that other freighter. Let's kind of fly through here and have a look. That is our target available dock port. It's good to do docking practice with a freight container, and then without a freight container, and then in each of the different ships, because they're all quite different. Actually, I would argue that docking with a freight container is one of the easier ways to dock, because the controls just aren't as touchy. So the logic there is that docking with underpowered thrust means that you can push the button harder. You don't have to be quite so gentle. I lost my yaw. Okay. I wouldn't have lost that yaw if I didn't have to try to figure out if I was going positive or negative. Because I did hit a button. I had time to think about it and then hit a button. But I didn't have time to see what changed and then hit a button again. I was busy kind of running my yabber. So the positive and negative on the yaw, roll, and pitch, that actually changes depending on which direction the dock port is facing on the space station. So that means that every time you go to a dock port, yaw, roll, and pitch, which one is positive or negative, the number it switches from one direction to the next. So you never really get to memorize that because they're always different. So what I have to do every time, basically, is I have to just kind of hit some controls and see what happens. And then usually I have to do that more than once. Like every time I want to look at the control, like I really don't memorize it in that short term either. So every time I look at the control, I have to hit both and see what happens. That's usually what it's like. Same thing with like looking at which way the ship is going. I usually just have to hit both. Unless I'm behind the ship, and then the orientation is like the normal FPV orientation. Alright, that completes the mission. Oh, that was a valuable mission. So we are already going to be at level 39. That means that in basically 2 more missions we could reach 40, depending on the value of the mission. So we could run down to this base 107. With we don't have a ship though. What stations are close? None. No stations are close. Dalvia is the closest. So kind of the best thing for us to do is to go to a land base. Let's just go to a land base. That's why this mission could be okay, but now it's 1,000 kilometers away. Sullen is not that far away. We have 2 hours to get there. And Sullen has a station. Oh, but we have a shuttle here. So we'll enter the vessel. We'll refuel. This vessel is broken. We'll accept the Sullen mission. And we will settle in for a long transit, during which I may jump out of the room. Alright, so we are undocking from Cohagen Station. Sullen is behind us, and we are going to burn for Sullen. There goes Cohagen off into the distance. Sullen is a high altitude station. And because we're going back, we're gonna want to go high altitude. Sullen is 1,000 kilometers up. And so what we want to do is we want to gain altitude and basically loiter until they get here. They're almost 4,000 kilometers away. So we could almost justify flying backwards and then flying forwards again. We'll just burn for a loiter. And if we can go west a little bit during that time, that's okay. We'll set our apoapsis. Apoapsis is going to be probably 1,000 is probably still the best one. Probably a little bit higher, actually. But it's not really better to fall during your loiter. You don't really want to loiter into a drop. Also, I'm not sure if we're burning the correct direction because we are getting a major inclination. Alright, so our apoapsis is up over 1,000, but I don't want inclination. Oh yeah, we gotta burn north and cancel that whole inclination out. And I'll do that upwards. We'll raise that altitude just a little bit. Fix our inclination back to roughly 0. Oh, I said 0. That was a dramatic change in inclination. But that means that we are actually not floating one direction or the other very quickly. Alright, so that'll be good. Put our eyes on Sullen Station. They're very far away. And I'm going to be right back. Alright, we have rotated out of view of Sullen Station. So I should have killed my rotation, but quick look to the west. Should see Sullen Station. Okay, we have 100 kilometers left to climb. We're still a 2,000 kilometer offset from Sullen Station. So what does that mean? 2,000 kilometers, we are approaching them at 6 kilometers per second. So 2,000 divided by 6, what does that even come out to? Like 400 seconds, 400 or 500 seconds. So that's about 8 minutes. I have to loiter for 8 minutes. How am I gonna do about this? I think I'm just gonna burn west and up. We still have 70% of our propellant. I'll try to line up perfectly west this time. Our FPA is still quite high, so we're not falling. And if we're having to lose altitude while we're burning into a stronger orbit, that is not that big of a deal. Okay, I think that is overkill, if anything. And that's why I'm going to prepare for my eastward burn. And we are not moving east at all. I mean, I don't know which direction we're going. You're supposed to be able to read the TA, ECC, T, and A, which I cannot read. Well, we're basically going vertically. Yeah, we're basically going perfectly vertically. So we're basically just loitering. And then we're hoping that Sullen Station will approach us at 7 kilometers per second. And so now we're going to be down at I don't know. We're like 1,200 seconds. 1,400 seconds or some shit like that. Alright, so we're gonna need to burn up from about a 7 kilometers per second offset. And we're gonna be high. So we're gonna want our distance to be 300 or 400. Probably like 400 will be like a 200 because we're gonna be so high. So depending on where our altitude is, we're looking at 400 or 500 kilometers difference in distance to Sullen. I mean, our velocity is like gonna be, it's, as far as east is concerned, it's like 0. And we're gonna be swooping down. That's not particularly ideal, but we're gonna be moving in an orbital velocity by the time we have to worry about losing altitude. So that changes everything. So at this point, I'm gonna start burning. I'm gonna go ahead and burn down a little bit too, a tiny bit. So we want to get up to, we're gonna have to break this burn up a little bit, but we want to take our time with the approach. We want to kind of get some velocity going and then fly down to Sullen, not really try to just perfectly rendezvous in one burn. So we are actually getting that right now. But actually we are 200 kilometers high. So actually we really want to just approach orbital velocity right now. And Sullen Station is going to be about 7,000 meters per second-ish. 7,200 meters per second. Now I'm going to start burning down significantly. Alright, so at this point it looks like we're pretty much on a reasonable intercept. It's just going to take a little while to get down there. Now the math is easy. If we're going 1 kilometer per second, then we have 180 seconds, which is 3 minutes. So now we could be like, alright, we're pretty much sure we're just going straight for them. It's not a perfect science, but at this distance, if we burn at Sullen, it's gonna work. And we'll reduce our time. And we still have 40% of our fuel, so that was perfectly reasonable approach. Alright, so now we're at 2 kilometers per second approach. So now we're down to like 1 minute. Now all we gotta do is line up for 2 things. We gotta get our orbital velocity, sure, but we also have to cancel our negative FPA. I'm leaning on a button on accident. Alright, perfect. So now we know exactly where we're going. Kind of wish you had these things a little farther out.
Station Sullen, we've got eyes on you.
Little bit of a speed wobble. So actually at 1,000 kilometers, we're looking at 7,600 meters per second for orbital velocity. I was thinking more like 7,000. But I guess all the way over to 3,000, it must only be like 6,800. Alright, I do not know how far away Sullen is. I'm totally just like blind right here. That indicator is down there, 1,400 meters, 1,300 meters, but I never look, so I don't have that camera move as part of my life. I'm always looking at it like this. There's the beautiful Sullen Station, best station in the game if you ask me. Nothing but dock ports. See, I gotta practice looking down at that distance indicator. That's one of them things where you're supposed to play with the VR or head tracker. But I'm not really big into that stuff. I mean, it's cool and all start. I never had anything like that. I don't really think I want to have the head tracker, to be honest. I think it would be like fun and then annoying. Like useful and then annoying. And some people don't have a joystick at all. And usually what ends up happening with me is that I have like a little period of time where it's like a new joystick move for me, because I have 8 joysticks here, you know, and it ain't a thumb. I'm using another finger to move the camera. So then some things are like, yeah, it's a joystick, you know, you just run it like a joystick. Some things are like, it's a move that you kind of have to learn separately. And moving the camera to look at different stuff is kind of like one of those things where sometimes it works one way and sometimes it works the other way. So it actually does happen a lot where, you know, I wouldn't practice looking the camera. I would need to specifically practice while in cockpit looking at the distance to the space station. See, I needed 2 taps on that yaw. Because I went the wrong direction at first. Alright, we are here to pick up the fusion injector. The fusion injector comes in 2 pieces, each individually packaged. Alright, how far away is Sermansky? All the way on the other side of the planet. Who's nearby? Montaigne. We're gonna go down to Montaigne and re-enter from there. It's just quite a bit easier. I really am spending a lot of time flying all over the place. If I just need to find where Montaigne is. There's Montaigne. So we're gonna fly down to Montaigne. It's just a much easier re-entry to perform. This is once again backtracking us. This will be a little bit more of a hairy rendezvous. It's a little bit more stressful of a rendezvous. Oh, it's only because we don't run out of fuel, but when you're flying down, then you might crash into the atmosphere. And when you're flying up, you won't crash into the atmosphere. But when you're flying up, you know, I think flying down is just harder all around. I think it does take more fuel to fly down than fly up. This way, this kind of fly down. I mean, it's not like I'm performing an ideal orbital maneuver here. I'm not waiting for the rendezvous window and then decelerating so that my natural gradual descent will intercept perfectly for a fairly efficient... Alright, wait. How fast are we moving here? 6. Yeah, let's chill here. For a nice, fairly efficient recircularization for a rendezvous with a lower station. You know, I'm kind of like trying to fly directly back. We're down at 600 kilometers altitude. So I think that this is that was a pretty good burn. We're gonna really be ballparking it pretty well. We're at 500. Alright, so they're only 500 kilometers away, and we are dropping pretty fast. So I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do here. But I think what I'm gonna do, start correcting now. Start burning. I'm gonna start back burning right away. Because I don't want to try to do it all at once and then have some dramatic speed wobble down into the atmosphere. So yeah, it was already too late. Well, we're still at 270 kilometers altitude, so this burn is going to take a lot of fuel. We're going to go steeper. Alright, now we're going to be dropping below. Really what we're looking at is our FPA, so I think I did do it. Exactly what I said is the problem. Is we're already down at 160, so another 40 kilometers are going to be scraping air. And then they're going to blow by us. Got lots of fuel. We can overcome. Alright, we're almost there. We're almost climbing again. Alright, now we're climbing again. And now all we gotta do is have a very aggressive ascent. We're going to need to get to... Oh, where are we going? Alright, so now we're moving.
Montana Station. Nice and easy. It's looking good.
No, it is not looking good. Now it's looking good. There's actually nothing at Montana except for a nice re-entry. Montana. 11,000 kilometers away from destination. dock pad. I'm just kidding. We were going for the dock port. And I think that's it right there. That is a nice looking dock pad though. Uh-oh. Alright, and there it is. Another Dockertunity. There, I got some spatial disorientation. Now we just refuel re-entry window to the standard re-entry window. Perform the standard re-entry, super easy. A little bit hairy. I never do the drop down to 188 correctly. I'm always like wobbling down all the way down to the atmosphere and skipping up like that. Happens almost every time. And re-entering from 1,000 kilometers altitude is the same flight as we just did, except for you go all the way down to the atmosphere anyway, so. Alright, so we are basically pointed where we want to be pointed. That station is in the dark. So we're gonna go for a -10 FPA. We're gonna try to, since I'm looking at it, we're gonna try to burn our offset. All at the same time. And we just aim perfectly vertical. Wait for the altitude of cancel FPA burn. I'm gonna do it at 100, 110, something like that. An exact science to it, but no need. The air is starting to really pull me down, but then at 90 kilometers we get a different ship system kicking in and we have more yaw performance, more pitch performance. So that's one funny thing about the game is how at 90 kilometers like a totally different ship system kicks in, or the physics change a little bit and you switch from space inputs to atmospheric inputs automatically, and then pitch and yaw and roll and stuff get way more powerful. Well, maybe not yaw, but it does though. Okay, so we're leveling off at about 50 something. So here we are leveling off right now. And we are 1,300 kilometers from our destination. So I'm gonna go ahead and start trimming that up just a little bit, so we stay nice and high. And we will gradually slow down. We're slowing down a lot, actually. The shuttle is the easy re-entry. This is by far the easiest ship to fly for this kind of stuff. Loaded freighter doesn't seem to slow down until it slows down all at once. And the Kalum EX5, you can't see nothing. It's really powerful, but you don't have your instrumentation. Your in-ship instrumentation is not very good. So now at this point we probably want to slow down a lot faster, which should happen naturally. As we're gradually losing altitude, the air will get denser and denser. And I'm still going to have to power turn though, it looks like. We're not really winning here. I'm going to start power turning now. I'm going to kill my trim too when I do that. So this mission should put us within one moderate mission of level 40. We'll see what happens. We are not slowing down very well. Some of the other ships turn a little more steeply than this one does. I'm maxed out on the pitch right now. I just can't get that aggressive of a pitch angle with this ship. It's harder to break out of the aerodynamic stability. Really, we want to be barreling straight down, so we are actually overshooting right now is what's happening. This one will heat up a lot faster. So we're just going to have to overshoot a little bit, lose a little bit more velocity, and fly back. Alright, now at this point, I can fly straight down. Almost 8 G's right there. Oh, we're going to an air freight, air cargo. greenhouse is getting really close. We could actually go back to Sullen from here.
Shuttle CF2, Skybarge Hattori. How are you today?
All right. Wow, that might actually do it. Let's just watch. I don't think it's gonna, but that's gonna get so close. And that does us. So we have now reached 40. So that is the end of the series for Rogue Mode 0 to 40. We are ending on Skybarge Hattori, Sky Carrier N10500. Can't get looking around or anything like that. So I'm gonna call that the end of the episode and the end of the series. And thank you for watching Rogue Mode 0 to 40 in Flight of Nova. Thank you very much.